I want to read a question on Patreon from Randy. Randy writes in, he says, "Hey, Zach, you seem very critical of the Giants for taking Saquon Barkley with a number 2 pick simply because, quote, a running back shouldn't be taken that high regardless of talent. Do you feel the same about the Jaguars taking Leonard Fournette with a number 4 pick, or the Cowboys trading up to the number 4 pick to take Ezekiel Elliott, or the Rams taking Todd Gurley with a number 10 pick? Where do you feel is the absolute earliest a running back should be drafted?" I love that question. So Derrick Henry is an incredible example of why you do not need a running back in the top 10. Derrick Henry was a second-round pick. Don't forget that. And by the way, you talk about Dallas. Dallas had not 1 but 2 opportunities to draft Derrick Henry, and they passed on him twice. Nick Chubb was a second-round pick. Joe Mixon was a second-rounder. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor was drafted in the second round. Look at the top 10 rushing leaders right now in the NFL. There's 2 first-round picks. You have Najee Harris, who was the number 24 overall pick. He's a rookie right now. I love that pick. We'll talk about why that's okay. And then you have Ezekiel Elliott, who is the number 4 overall pick. And only one of those guys, that Ezekiel Elliott pick, was a top 10 pick. The other top 10 rushing leaders, so we'll tell you top 11 because Alvin Kamara's in there too, were all of them not picked in the first round. Or sorry, 9 of the top 11 guys. I don't know 12. I know the top 11. So maybe 12 is not a first round pick too, but only 2 guys in the top 11 in rushing in the NFL right now are former first round picks. Najee Harris, number 24 overall. Ezekiel Elliott, number 4 overall. Vikings running back Dalvin Cook was a second round pick. Aaron Jones, the Packers running back, was a 5th round pick. Jaguars running back James Robinson went undrafted. Alvin Kamara, one of the most incredible explosive running backs in the NFL, was a 3rd round pick. So it's clear and obvious at this point that you can get top talent at the running back position later in the draft. You do not need to draft a running back, in the top 10. Where would I be most comfortable drafting a running back? I would feel most comfortable drafting a guy like that in the 2nd round. I think a 2nd round is perfect. Get what you... Here's why. And I can be talked into drafting later in the 1st round. Like the Steelers drafting Najee Harris, number 24 overall. I like that because, hey, by later in the 1st round, the best, most talented players are off the board, and you're just saying, can we find a starter in the 1st round? That's all your goal is later in the 1st round. But I would not draft a running back inside the top 10 because you can get more bang for your buck in the top 10. There are so many other running backs available after the top 10. I don't know why you need to get one there. It screams of desperation or a lack of understanding of the rarity of a great offensive lineman or defensive lineman or a top quarterback or a corner or a safety. Like, running back has so many available players. It's ubiquitous. There's great running backs all over the place. And you can get one in the 2nd round, the 3rd round, the 4th round, the 5th round. You don't need to draft one in the top 10 to get quality. If you're drafting in the top 10, you can get a more impactful and more rare player than drafting a running back. So yeah, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Todd Gurley you mentioned. Those are all mistakes in my opinion. And I understand the hardest one to argue there is Ezekiel Elliott, because Ezekiel Elliott, they went to the playoffs his rookie year, was awesome. He had a big impact immediately. But then realize this, I mentioned this earlier, realize that when in 2016, Ezekiel Elliott got drafted number 4 overall by the Cowboys, who traded up to get him. In that same NFL draft, Derrick Henry went in the 2nd round. The reality is the Cowboys could have drafted a amazing corner, Jalen Ramsey, number 4 overall, who went number 5 to the Jaguars. And then in the 2nd round, taken Derrick Henry, number 34 overall. Dallas passed on Derrick Henry not once, but twice in the 2016 NFL draft. And I ask you, who would you rather have today? Derrick Henry or Ezekiel Elliott? I would rather have Derrick Henry. So look, in my opinion, drafting a running back in the top 10 is always a mistake. And I just think you can always do better. You can always draft a better, more impactful player. Like, you don't need, why make an unforced error when you don't need to draft a running back in the top 10? You can get other players who can make a better impact. I look at the Giants. I love Saquon Barkley. I had to talk to my buddy Joe about this yesterday. Saquon Barkley is an incredible running back. When I criticize the Giants for drafting Saquon Barkley number 2 overall, I'm not criticizing Saquon Barkley. He's amazing. What I'm criticizing is that they prioritized running back over offensive line. They drafted Saquon Barkley number 2 and then a guard, Will Hernandez, in the second round. I would have swapped that. I would have drafted Quentin Nelson number 2 overall because I value linemen more than a running back. And then I would have drafted Nick Chubb in the second round. And I remember criticizing that at the time. Like, Saquon's a great player, but how good is a running back without help, without a good offensive line? Most of the time, 99% of the time, there's a few exceptions. Most of the time, if you're a running back without a great offensive line, it doesn't matter. You're not going to do very well.